welcome back to the Bears Baseball Network. We had the BWL Championship game weekend, and how much fun it was. Very competitive the entire way. I mean, these games, there are people who say that how can a winter league, how can it really be competitive? And I'll tell you what, man, if you ask the guys who are playing in these games, who are in these one-run situations, if they feel the pressure, if it feels like a real game, they will tell you 100%. There are some big moments in these games. Go ahead and watch the celebration videos on Bears Baseball Network on Instagram, bearsbaseball.network on Instagram. Check out our championship celebration videos there. And just look at the excitement, man. This was a really fun league. And again, some of our top guys got 40, 50, 60, and even in one case, Lucas Wilburn got 70 plate appearances in the Bears Winter League. So a ton of extra work getting put in, again, against high-level competition. So very, very fun, BWL. Let's go ahead and start with the first game, the 12-13U League. This was maybe the one that was the least competitive, and gotta say, I was a little surprised. This league was 5-5 going in, but it was just a pinstripe all the way, an 11-0 win, and really, what I was most impressed with was the pitching. Rudy Montenegro-Langley, Rowan Damschroeder, both going up there, not only pounding the strike zone, but keeping guys off base, Rowan, he's a guy who maybe you think of more as a strictly strike thrower, pitch to contact guy. He was getting big strikeouts in this game. Bernie, these are two guys who I would say didn't necessarily feature prominently in your rotation this past year in 2024. Now you see them go through a combined shutout in the BWL Championship. First of all, what do you think about that performance on Saturday, and what does that make you feel about going into 2025 with your pitching staff?
Yeah, they both were absolutely, great out there. I thought Rowan especially looked really good. I thought Rudy had kind of some moments in between where he kind of walked some guys, but Rowan went out there for 3 innings and just straight dominated. Didn't really allow many guys on base at all. And we'll see here. Those two guys were probably, if I had to guess, ranked like 5th and 6th, maybe even lower in innings on the team last season. So if we can get some on those guys combined with the guys we have, pitch staff's going to be a lot of fun.
KJ, I think those two guys were kind of in conversation for the championship game MVP. And when you're looking at those two, could really go either way. They both homered. They both threw 3 scoreless. But with 5 RBIs, a home run and a double, and of course 3 scoreless innings on the mound, Rowan Damschroeder is the championship game MVP. KJ, kind of the big story of this season was you acquired Rowan Damschroeder via trade. You get him on your team. You start winning once you get him. First of all, what was that like getting Rowan Damschroeder to your team, and what did you think about his championship game performance?
Yeah, I think we were in a spot where we were playing really one-on-one league and weren't necessarily hitting very well in this league, and I knew when I acquired Rowan I was going to get, not only a good pitcher but a big bat for my lineup, and, he definitely played the part.
Going into the 14-15U League, this game was by far the least competitive in the regular season. 8 wins for the Pinstripes, so they started this game with a 3-0 lead. And Bernie, I'll tell you what, this game ends being 7-5. So without the 3-run lead that they got from the regular season, Pinstripes may have lost this game. The Throwbacks came to play. I thought the pitching staff for the Throwbacks did a really nice job kind of settling these powerful Pinstripe bats, but at the end of the day, I thought Evan Lancaster, Lucas Velchek, and then Colby Lair at the end were just a little bit too tough to overcome that 3-run deficit from pregame. Bernie, I know you were there for this entire game. What were your thoughts from this one with a Pinstripes victory?
Yeah, it looked like earlier the Pinstripes were going to take care of business, quite quickly in this game. I left this game for probably a total of 3 minutes, and I came back, and all of a sudden we're in this massive spot where Colby Lair has, let's get the last down, a big spot in a close game. But then, they fought hard. They came back. And they made an uncompetitive league for a lot of the season, into a very good championship game.
KJ, again, I think the MVP of the championship game could have gone one of 2 ways. Evan Lancaster, of course, 7 strikeouts on the mound and 3 scoreless. Also had a big RBI double in this game. But the championship game MVP is going to be the same as the regular season MVP. It's Joey Burgess. And KJ, we're going to talk about Joey a little bit more later. But from his BWL performances, when you drafted him, did you expect that you were going to get this MVP caliber bat? And he does it again here in the championship game. What were your thoughts about Joey Burgess this season?
Yeah, I think last year Joey had, moments where he either looked silly or looked like the best player on the field. And this year, he looked like the best player on the field, basically the whole time. And, I've been on the Joey Burgess MVP train for a long time, and, I think he kind of came to fruition this season.
Moving into our B League, this league was pitching dominant all season long. A lot of high-quality arms in this league. And, Bernie, this game was scoreless through the first 4 innings, so I really think you saw that pitching come to fruition here. But at the end of the day, it's the Throwbacks who come out on top with a 6-4 victory. Bernie, this league, again, pitching dominant. I thought a lot of different guys showed their stuff on the mound in this one, but a couple of big hits, especially from our MVP, Evan Little, who came through in this one. What'd you think about this B League, Bernie? What'd you think about the arms and the throwbacks coming through?
Yeah, honestly, I think it might have been one of my first times at this league, but that 16 age group is just deep, man. They have a bunch of pitchers on Driscoll and Latrina who can still go out there and deal. And I know there's 10 runs scored in this game. There could have very easily been less. A couple of those home runs came in a big. I know there was a three-run home run with 2 outs. A couple of solo shots with 2 outs. This game could easily have been even lower scoring.
KJ, once again, the championship game MVP and the regular season MVP are one and the same. It's Evan Little. KJ, I mean, we've known for a long time, if there's one thing Evan Little can do, it's hit. And it's absolutely hit. And he was scary to face all season long, especially in this game. What were your thoughts about coaching against Evan Little, especially in a game like this?
Yeah, Evan's a beast, and it's very hard to get him out. It wasn't just one pitcher he was matching out. He matched out 4 or 5 different guys, and he's hitting fastballs, he's hitting curveballs. We couldn't get him out.
And finally, we go to the A-League here in the BWL, and this game went all the way down to the wire. It was 4-4 late, then it was 7-4, and then it was a walk-off win for the Pinstripes to make it 8-7. This game was super competitive, man. I mean, neither starting pitcher gave an edge in this one. Batters had to fight for every single base runner and, of course, every single run. And this game really came down to clutch hitting, man. You got a really clutch home run earlier in the game from Eric Latrania, a clutch home run from Adam Shockley to take the lead back, and then some tough at-bats there at the end to win it for the Pinstripes. Bernie, this league was a lot of fun all season. I think every single base, every single out, every single run had to really be earned. What did you think about this championship game?
Yeah, I think I said in BBN last week that this was going to be the best game. I think it lived up to it. Like I said before last week that this is where the best players in the Bears live, and I think that this week they only went out and proved that.
KJ, once again, for the third time now, and I think it just shows you the legitimacy of these players. For the third time, the regular season MVP and the championship MVP are the same guy. It's Eric Latrania, who, again, had that big home run in this one. This guy, again, he kind of flew under the radar throughout the entire season, just consistently, game in and game out, putting up good at-bats against these tough pitchers, never giving up himself in the batter's box, and he comes through again with a big home run in this game. What was it like coaching Eric Latrania for, again, in another year, and just for him to showcase his kind of underratedness, I would say, in the BWL?
Yeah, I think Eric kind of proved last year wasn't a fluke. He played really low last year, but, spent a majority of the season on B League, so I think to have a full year of doing it on A League against better competition than we had last year really proved how good Eric is.
All right, let's talk about some of the BWL risers, because at the end of the day, what we've said before the BWL is 5 years ago, when we didn't have the BWL, we'd go into the winter, you wouldn't see us for 4 months, and then we'd come back, and everybody would be surprised by these new names who are lighting up the scoreboard. And the BWL kind of gives us a peek into that. So let's look at some of the big risers from before the BWL to now. And I want to start with a guy we've already talked about a little bit, Bernie, and Joey Burgess. This is a guy who I think last year at the beginning of the year was kind of finally breaking into the starting lineup of the top team. Maybe by the end of the season, you could kind of argue he was closing in on that star territory. But I think after this BWL season, Bernie, he's got to be a bona fide superstar. I mean, this guy can absolutely rake. BWL MVP, again, in a super competitive league. What are your thoughts about Joey Burgess heading into 2025, Bernie?
Yeah, in 2024, I think that we were choosing our MVPs a little bit. I think it might have been KJ's or somebody's here, but they say, Joey Burgess is my long shot MVP because I think a lot of us knew that he could get there. He didn't have an underwhelming 2024 season. I think it was actually a very good season for him, but this wasn't the MVP level. I think that this year, with another year building that top team in the starting lineup, that we're going to see that this year.
KJ, a guy who I think everybody knew at his age on his team, he was a very good player, maybe even the best player on his team, but he wasn't quite a Bear-wide star in any case. But I think this guy has turned into a Bear-wide star, and that's Owen Haynes. Again, I think that 12U team was a team that nobody was really paying attention to last year. I think people will pay attention to him this season, and in particular, I think the guy that people are going to be talking about is Owen Haynes. KJ, what was it like seeing him compete from week 1 to the end of the season, and where do you think his kind of standing is going to be going into 2025 as a Bear-wide star?
Yeah, I thought Owen was a consistent threat all year long. He fell off a little bit towards the end, but I think through the first 3-4 weeks, he's the best player in all of the BWL. Out of all ages. So I think definitely that's going to carry over to this spring, and he's going to have a big year.
Bernie, a guy who was a rookie, I wouldn't say necessarily an unknown player, because I think he was on our prospect list. He was one of our top rookies to watch, but certainly was not in the level of star, was not in the same breath as guys like Harrison Blaybaum, Rudy Montenegro Langley, but a guy who I really think turned himself into maybe not quite that level of Harrison and Rudy, but certainly in the conversation of a star player in the Bears. That's Kenny Douglas. I mean, I would say at times he was the best player in this BWL league, in this 12-13U league. I think there were weeks that he out-hit Harrison or Rudy, or even both a couple weeks. This guy has really kind of put his name in the hat, Bernie, as an all-star level player, a first-team All-American level player. What do you think about Kenny Douglas's BWL?
Yeah, he was great, but I don't know if you could say that he's at that level yet. But what he did do over the course of this winter is he proved that he's going to have a shot to be in that level. He's going to get treated the same as Harrison and Rudy. He's going to be at the top of the line. He's going to get a shot to prove that he's as good as those guys.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very impressive season. And KJ, the last guy I want to talk about here, a guy who is also kind of at that level where I would say before the BWL, again, not a no-name rookie. We talked about him. He was on the prospect list. We talked about him as a top rookie. But I do think this season, this BWL season, he kind of starts to make that push for not just a good rookie, but a great Bear and a guy who's going to be on all-star teams, and that's Hank Schultz. This guy, I think, again, you could kind of say the same thing. He started off really, really hot, maybe cooled off a little bit, but I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball, even playing up in the 16U league, I thought this guy was absolutely lights out defensively. I thought even when he wasn't necessarily getting as many hits as the first half of the season, he was competing, again, even against the older pitchers at both 15U and 16U. KJ, what are your thoughts about Hank Schultz's BWL, and how do you think it's going to translate into 2025?
Yeah, Hank had a really good BWL. And he was so good defensively that, I had to pick him up for a whole other league, and he was still so good over there. So, defensively, he's great and definitely had flashes of being a superstar with the bat.
We had a ton more off-season risers here from the BWL, and we'll talk about a lot of them when we drop our new prospect list in early March, so be sure to look out for that. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Bears Baseball Network, and we'll talk to you all next week.